we get to record this. Yesterday was a very unpleasant experience of discovering that it was not recorded after the whole session was finished. So now we make sure it's being recorded. Anyway, if some of you need the recording of the session on class advisory, I will post um, a recording of the exactly the same seminar, but it was given to another audience sometime in April. I will post it later together with a link to the recording of this session today on classroom management. Anyway, they really go side by side with each other. Okay, great. Thank you very much for joining us very early. Can we get to know where our participants are coming from? I know many of you have been with us since Monday. Our group of teachers from Westbridge in Iloilo, our teachers from Wishbone, Kiddie Camp. We have our friends from Philippine Science Main Campus. Hello, good afternoon to all of you. Of course, our friends from Digos City, Holy Spirit Academy of Malolos and Tarlac, and a big group from International British Academy from Imus, Cavite. Hello to all of you. River Spring School, Childlink High School, Cebu City. I've been talking about them the past week because they are a school of character based in Cebu City. And then we have from Las Piñas, from Paref Westbridge, of course, Saint Scholastica's Academy of Marikina. Hello to all of you. Um, Great. Okay. Well, thank you for joining us, uh, especially for those of you who have been with us since Monday. Okay. And that's in fact what I'd like to know. Please type in the chat box one if this is your first time to join this week, five if this is the fifth time you've been with us since day one, since Monday, four if only 4 days. Okay, great. Wow, amazing. Most of you are fives. There's one already that I saw. One, Lindsay, Linsel. Hello, welcome for the first time. Everyone else, most of you are typing five. First time for Leah, welcome. Um, First time for Angelica, for Arlene, hello, welcome to you. This is your first time to join us this week, while I think 80%, if not 90%, have been with us since Monday. This is their fifth time already. Fantastic. Well, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you've been attending our seminars, you know we start on the dot, not a second late. And so we begin. We are going to talk about better classroom management once and for all. You can solve that discipline problem. And this is a very interesting one. All the past days, I've been talking about character formation. The reason why we give these seminars, including the the 10 that we're going to hold in July, the 7 we had in May, and then the 5 we had in April and March and January, is because you've heard it mentioned repeatedly. For those of you who've been with us since Monday, character formation has got to be the top priority. Now, classroom management is important related to character formation because how can you give character formation if you are the kind of teacher we hear about from other schools who scream, who yell, who sometimes even hurt students, and sometimes even use foul language, bad words. And they think it's because they have high standards. Okay. I've met teachers like that who think that the harsher they are with the students, the more disciplined the student will become. Well, maybe it used to work in the 1960s and 70s. It does not work anymore today. It doesn't work anymore today. And so it's important that we train ourselves in better classroom management, how you can get your students to do what you want them to do without ever having to resort to shouting, screaming, and yelling. Because there are strategies, there are ways of doing it without ever having to be angry or without even ever having to be upset. Okay? You know, according to research, one of the reasons why a number of our colleagues in the profession leave the teaching profession, it's because of the failure in classroom management. You know the expression, nilamon ng mga estudyante ang teacher ng buong buo. Have you heard of that expression? A teacher who didn't survive even a quarter because nilamon ng mga bata. In fact, I know some students who they challenge themselves into yung parang ang kanilang challenge is how early they can make the teacher walk out. How soon can they make the teacher cry? Yan. So, that's a real challenge. And so, our source for today is Dr. Harry K. Wong. I brought him to Manila back in 2012, and he spoke to 7,000 teachers. And um, I had to pay him $20,000 for a 3-hour seminar. But today, you don't have to pay him $20,000. I will pass on to you much of what he shared, and much of the what he shared can be found in his book, which is the best book you can ever get on classroom management, entitled The First Days of School. Okay, if there is only one book you're going to buy on classroom management, it's got to be this, First Days of School by Harry and Rosemary Wong. It has sold more than 5 million copies, translated into many languages, and it's the best book, hands down. Experts acknowledge this is the best book you can ever find on classroom management. If you don't have a copy of that, it's worthwhile getting for your school or even for yourself as a teacher, especially for beginning teachers. Okay, that's important. Now, let's talk about bad teaching first. The reason why I said earlier some teachers leave the profession is because of failure in classroom management. And when the teacher fails in classroom management, um, poor learning is happening, bad teaching is happening, and then poor learning is happening. But according to Harry Wong, wait, there are other signs, warning signs of bad teaching, which we have to make sure do not exist in our classroom. Here are them. Here are the 13 of them, actually. Number one, shows little knowledge of the subject matter she is supposed to be teaching. Yan. And this happens sometimes in schools, you know. The school year opened already, and here's a teacher who suddenly resigns, who suddenly quits. And then the principal goes to Mrs. Reyes. Mrs. Reyes, pwedeng ikaw na lang humawak ng math. I know your specialty is science, pero kailangan na talaga nating magbukas ng klase. You're the most senior, and that teacher, poor teacher, she's an expert in English. Um, and then suddenly she is forced to teach math. She has little knowledge of the subject matter that she is supposed to be teaching. Bad teaching will happen there. Poor learning will be happening there. Here's another one, lacks basic academic skills. That's, you can be sure, bad teaching is happening there. Here's another one, the teacher holds low expectations for students. You know, the worst thing a teacher can say on day one, class, half of you here will fail. Half of you here will fail. And ang isip nila is by challenging them that way, he is able to motivate them. No, it doesn't work that way. Chances are you will be prophetic. Half will fail. And then low expectations, bad teaching will happen there. Here's number 4, makes little effort to maintain discipline. Ever heard of students complaining, hindi ko nga madinig si ma'am eh. Ang ingay ng classmates ko. Hindi ko nga madinig yung sinasabi ni ma'am. Paano hindi niya mapatahimik itong classmate ko? I have classmates who are noisy, talking the whole time, and the teacher doesn't discipline them. doesn't know how to keep them quiet. You can be sure poor teaching will be happening there, poor learning will be happening. Number five, does not focus on academic goals. Number six, cannot communicate knowledge in an interesting way. That's why students complain. Ang boring ng teacher, ang boring ng subject, ang boring sa eskwelahan. If a teacher is not able to make the subject interesting, it's not a problem of the course content. It's a problem of the delivery most of the time, because there are ways of getting the students interested, motivated, engaged even. Number seven, gives disorganized lessons and vague, careless assignments. Ever heard of students complaining, hindi ko nga alam why the teacher gave us this assignment. I don't even see the connection with the lesson that we're taking up. I mean, somehow related, but I don't see how it's going to make us better understand the lesson. Disorganized lessons and vague, careless assignments. Sometimes students will even comment that parang binigyan kami ng assignment just for the sake of being able to give us an assignment, just for the sake of being able to give us work to do. Yeah, because sometimes the school teachers are told, oh, we will call off classes on Friday, okay? So that we can have our faculty seminar. Please give workload for the students. And then here's a teacher who will give a workload just for the sake of getting the kids busy, just for the sake of being able to say, I gave a workload to my students. Disorganized lessons, vague, careless assignments, does not assign homework on a regular basis, is not aware of your child's strengths, weaknesses, and interests. I always give this as an example how sad it would be if after your students spending 10 months with you in the classroom, they proceed to the next level. And then that student of yours that goes to the next level, dun mo lang mababalitaan, she is one of the best pianists in Asia. She is a prodigy, child prodigy, a genius in piano. But you never got to find out. You never talked to the child about that. You never found out her interests, strengths, and weaknesses. It would be very sad um, that we have students in our classroom for 10 months and we barely knew them because all we did was cover the curriculum. Here's a principle that will come out again and again. For education to be effective, it has to be personal. For education to be effective, it has to be personal. There's got to be a personal dealing relationship that was discussed by Dr. Grillo last Wednesday when he talked about challenges and strategies in engaging students. You want the students to get to be engaged and to really be into the lesson? Well, there's got to be a personal dealing relationship with our students, not merely we go to the Zoom room, to the Google Meet room, the classroom, and then we deliver the lecture, and then we go out and we don't even get to know the names of the students. They are merely class numbers for us. Then there is no effective education that happens there. Here's number 10, because there are 13. Shows little enthusiasm for her work. When a teacher is like that, yung feeling mo parang being tortured when she enters the classroom, being forced, dragging her feet. You can almost be sure bad teaching will be happening there. It's a warning sign. On the other hand, you've seen how some of our past teachers enthusiastic about what they're doing, about their subject matter, and it rubs off on the students. The students also start getting interested, excited, enthusiastic for the subject. Belittle students' efforts, shows no interest in communicating with parents. We've talked about this as because If we are to form the character of the young people, we need the support of the parents, especially now when we are in the online situation. The parents are now the ones who are supposed to be doing the disciplining, which we used to do inside the classroom, right? But now that they're doing work from home, class from home, online classes, well, it's the parents now who will have to make sure they are punctual in logging in, that they do the work that we ask them to do, that we ask the students to do, that they are focused, that um, TikTok is not open, Netflix is not open, Facebook is not open, while also they are attending a synchronous class. We need to collaborate. We need the parents to collaborate with us. And finally, number 13, the height of bad teaching, especially in the light of what we've been talking about. The only effective way to give character formation is to do the powerful example of our life. The only effective way to give character formation is through the powerful example of the teacher. Therefore, the complete opposite of that is when the teacher exhibits unsound character or unprofessional behavior, shouting, screaming, yelling, hurting, harming, using profanity, bad words, foul language. That is bad teaching happening, because that is, aside from, really bad example for the students. So then, according to Harry Wong, every teacher goes through these four stages. Okay, every teacher, four stages we go through. Here's the first one. This is the stage that where, you remember the first time you went to your classroom, the first time, the first day of your teaching, the night before, aba, nakaplansya na yung susuotin mo. You even prepared for the whole class speech, your welcome, your motivational, then the lecture, including the jokes that we're going to crack throughout the period. Those are already in our script. Well, that's what you call fantasy. The stage of fantasy where we thought everything is going to be easy, where we thought, at the end of every period, pag sabi mong, okay, class, time is up, you thought the students would say, no, ma'am, we want more, we want more, fantasy. Okay. And you went into the teaching profession because you thought you're going to change the world. You're going to make the world a better place. Okay. Well, okay. Most of us, I mean, not most of us, but all of us passed through that stage. In fact, um, most likely, most of you decided to become a teacher because you wanted to make a difference in the child's life. You wanted to make a difference in the life of your students. And so you chose this profession. But fantasy ends the day you enter the classroom and you give your class that you prepared so much for, and three or four students will sleep, are sleeping. Fantasy ends the day you enter the classroom and students are very rowdy, boisterous, noisy. They look at you as you enter and they continue laughing. That's the end of fantasy. And you enter the second stage called survival. Okay? Survival, where sometimes you reach a point where the only objective of the day is that you will not get angry. Survival, where objective of the day to survive the day. We get very tired, exhausted, because many times in the period we would have to stop teaching and call John. John, sit up straight. John, stop talking. Joanna, face here. Eyes on the board. Everyone listen up. Sit up straight. Stop talking. And then you repeat that 85 times in a period of 1 hour. I'm not exaggerating. If you actually count the number of times you say, sit up straight, stop talking, listen here, eyes on the board, If you put together all those things, you may not realize it, but you don't realize it, but that's what makes you feel so tired and exhausted at the end of the day. The 90 times you will have to repeat, stop talking, eyes here, listen up, um, when there are actually ways of being able to do it without even having to say, John, stop talking, Joanna, eyes here, listen, um, eyes on the board. We don't even have to say those things. That are strategies, and we're going to use those strategies. I'm going to share with you from Harry Wong a number of those strategies, as well as from Hal Urban and Ray Fesquith. Survival. It's very painful to see teachers at the end of every class, at the end of every period, now at the end of every synchronous class, they shut off the Zoom or the Google Meet classroom, and then they slump on the chair, and then they're counting 35 more days before Christmas break. Yan, survival. Very sad when you see a teacher who's been there for years, and at the end of every period, she slumps in the chair, and then she's counting 22 more years before retirement, surviving. And here's a teacher who precisely decided to become a teacher in order to make a difference in the lives of students. It's very sad when all he needs are strategies on how to manage the class. Well, um, let's get out of the survival stage. But as you continue teaching, you start learning better and better ways of doing things, right? Because you have a heart of a teacher. You continue trying to become better. You attend seminars like this. You learn new strategies. You Google it. Better strategies to teach online. Better strategies to get the students engaged. That's what good teachers do. You continue teaching until you discover better ways of doing it, of doing things. For example, you realize, if I teach this chapter first before this other one, the students understand better. Or if I make the students do this assignment, this work, they get very engaged and very excited. That's when you enter the third stage called mastery. You are not just merely covering the curriculum, you are able to make the students learn and understand. Mastery, stage 3. But the sad thing is, we have some teachers who stay in the stage of survival for years, for too long. And it's very sad when all they need are strategies. But today, what I want you to do, to aspire for, is skip fantasy. It's not easy to teach. Let's face it, there are challenges. And yes, this Zoom classroom, this online classes, these are all making our life even more difficult. Admit it. We first have to come to the admission that, um, while we call this the new normal, there's nothing normal about this. This is an abnormal situation. And teachers are stressed out, students are stressed out, parents are stressed out. Let's be forgiving with ourselves. I know I've said this already in the past few days, but I need to repeat it because it's a message teachers need to hear. Let us be forgiving with ourselves. Don't expect exactly the same results as what we used to get when we were in the normal face-to-face classroom setup. Okay? But today we are going to see, and we're going to work on being able to reach stage 4. You're not just making the students learn and understand, you're making an impact. That's the highest stage of teaching. When you do not just make the students learn the lesson, you design the lesson for the students to understand and to master, and to be really able to understand it and be able to master it. But more than that, you make an impact in the lives of the students. I've said this, I think, Monday or Tuesday. Let me repeat it. Your success, teachers, is to be able to say at the end of the year, I'm a good teacher. I've made an impact in the lives of my students. I'm a good teacher. My students are better human beings because I taught them math, science, English. You see, it's what every good teacher does, regardless of what subject we're teaching. They can make an impact. And in the first place, we said to do the example of our life. They will learn not just math, science, and English from you, they will learn professionalism in the way you come to class, online or face to face, professionally, punctually, on time. They will learn self control in the way they see in you self control, temperance, patience, kindness. They will learn kindness in the way you treat them kindly, with kindness, with respect. They will learn all the virtues through the example of the life of the teacher. That's what we are after, impact. Okay, so those are, according to Harry Wong, the four stages of teaching: fantasy, survival, mastery, and impact. And if we are great classroom managers, we can make an impact. We can make the students do what we want them to do without ever having to resort to shouting, screaming, yelling. Now, I said earlier, if there is only one book you're going to buy on classroom management, it's The First Days of School by Harry Wong. Now I'm telling you, if there's only one magazine your school will purchase, let it be this: Educational Leadership. It's a fantastic magazine for teachers, for schools. They put together some really high quality research on learning, teaching, education. One of the landmark studies they made is this: on the top traits of an effective teacher. They interviewed thousands of teachers and students spanning 50 years based on a 50-year study, just asking them, what are the traits of your effective teachers in the past that you've ever had? And then here are the top three that came out. Number one, an effective teacher is a good classroom manager, precisely the very topic of our session today. That's why this series, if you want to call it, is really a series on being effective teachers, how to be an effective teacher. So, an effective teacher is a good classroom manager. That's the number one that showed in their survey. Second, top trait of an effective teacher: an effective teacher designs lessons to reach mastery. You see, by design, the teacher makes it a point to be able to deliver the lecture, the lesson, the subject in such a way that the students will learn. I am not a fan of teachers who proudly brag that half of the class is failing. And they think it's because they have high standards. And they think it's because they are high quality teachers. Not according to the survey, not according to experts. If half of your class is failing, the first thing you need to ask is, how am I teaching it to the students? Why are they not learning it? Don't immediately blame the students' laziness, lack of motivation, the Wi Fi problems. Sure, they are factors, they are important, and they do sometimes affect, but many times, if a big number of the students are failing, the first question we will have to ask is, how can the teacher teach the subject in a way that they will learn by design? That's why I like UBD very much. I am very big fan of J. McTighe and Wiggins Grant, who wrote the Understanding by Design. By design, we can make the students understand the lessons. That's a quality, a top trait of an effective teacher. Here's the third: an effective teacher has positive expectations that students will be successful. In fact, they made an experiment. They um, put together in one class randomly students chosen randomly, not based on grades, not based on economic background. A school just put together in one class randomly chosen students. And then they also chose teachers randomly to handle this class. But here's the catch: the principal told the teachers who were chosen to teach handle this class very well because they were well chosen special students. Okay? And then the school year went on. At the end of the school year, that class outperformed the cream section. And the principal had to call the teachers. And I have a confession to make. The principal told them, you know, the students you were given to handle, there's nothing special about them. They were chosen randomly. We just told you that they were special, but really, there's nothing special about them. And you too are not special. You were chosen randomly also. But the factor that made the class successful was the teachers were teaching the class with a positive expectation, thinking that this is a special class. This is an exceptional class. So then, that is what we will have to do. How is your expectation of your students? When you are given a class, are you like some teachers I heard in the past? Immediately they think, oh no, this is a poor class. This is a bad class. That expectation of yours will be almost prophetic. So, research tells us that the number one factor governing learning is classroom management, not discipline. So please don't say, Mr. Antoy, kung kilala mo lang ang estudyante namin, walang disiplina, kaya hindi natututo. Research will tell you, okay, discipline is a factor, but that is not the number one factor governing learning. It's not self-esteem. It's not motivation. Mr. Antoy, our students are from very poor families. Wala silang motivation. They're not, they go through problems with self-esteem. No, research tells us those may be factors, but that those are not the number one. Not even class size. It's the classroom manager. If the teacher is a good classroom manager, learning can happen. That's why learning has happened under the Santol tree. I mean, we've heard of stories like that. Learning has happened even in a classroom with 75 students. I mean, it's a nightmare, even just to think about it. And yet, in the Philippines, there are classrooms like that with 75 students to take care of. But if the teacher knows how to manage the class, learning can still happen. Learning is still going to happen. Here's principle of Harry Wong: stop disciplining and start managing. Okay, those are two different things. You don't need discipline if you know how to manage. That's Harry Wong principle. You don't need to discipline if you know how to manage. Stop disciplining and start managing. Now, let me give you a distinction, a clear difference. Stewardesses in airlines, they don't discipline, they manage. That's what Harry Wong means when he says, don't discipline, manage. What do the airlines do before takeoff? Any airline you enter, Cebu Pacific, Philippine Airlines, United Airlines, Virgin Airlines, what do all the airlines do? They review the procedures before takeoff. And whatever airline you enter, the procedures are the same. Open the window shade, close the table in front of you, straighten up the chair, fasten your seatbelt, put your cell phone to silent mode or even turn it off during takeoff. No electronic gadgets. It's the same. The problem in the classrooms is when students start saying, Ma'am, bakit bawal sa inyo? Dun sa class ni Mr. So-and-so, pwede. Bakit in the class of Mrs. Reyes, we can do this? How come in your... That's when you have trouble. That's when problem begins. When they start getting confused because the procedures become different from one teacher to another. So, Harry Wong said, One of the things you should do before you open the new school year is make the teacher sit down and try to make uniform your procedures, so that any classroom that the student enters, the expectations are the same, the procedures are the same. Okay, that's one. So that's the first thing they do. They review the procedures, which in fact is what you should be doing during the first days of school. Kaya pala yun ang title ng libro ni Harry Wong, because that's the key to a successful school year. In the first days of the school year, you should be rehearsing, teaching and rehearsing procedures over and over until they become routine. Now, remember what I said? Stewardesses manage, they don't discipline. After reviewing the procedures, what do? They now go around inspecting, checking if people are following the procedures. If they see someone not following the procedure, they only do two things. Only two things. They call the person ma'am or sir, and then they tell that person exactly what they want them to do. Ma'am, the seatbelt, please. Thank you. Sir, please open the window shade. Thank you. Sir, please straighten up the chair. And then sometimes she will help by pushing the button to straighten up the chair. If um, the person will need help in the seat belt, that's it. Only two things, ma'am or sir, and then they tell the person exactly what they want them to do. That's managing. That's what you call managing. Now, in the classroom, disciplining. If the stewardesses are not managing, they're disciplining. This is what they do, like what happens inside the classroom sometimes. They go around and then they see someone with a seatbelt not fastened. They will go, Sir, hindi niyo ba nadinig yung announcement? Should I translate it to you in Tagalog? Hindi niyo ba nadinig? Hindi kayo nakikinig? Ilang beses kailangang ulitin para sundin niyo? That's disciplining. Disciplining when you start saying too many things that don't mean anything. I mean, um, because I've met teachers like that. Ang feeling nila, the harsher their words, the more disciplined John will become. John, sit down. How many times they have to tell you? Didn't you hear what I said? Ano ka ba? May sakit ba yung utak mo? Can't you understand what I just said? Um, those are useless words. And Harry Wong says, please do away with those useless words. Okay? It's enough to simply say, John, sit down, please. Like the stewardesses, managing, not disciplining. Joanna, stop talking, please. Joey, eyes on the board, please. Now, there are ways of being able to do it without even having to say, John, sit down, please. Joanna, sit up straight. Eyes on the board, please. And that's what we're going to learn today. Strategies of classroom management that will enable you to make John do what you want him to do without even having to say anything. It can be done. Don't you notice the master teachers? It's amazing. A master teacher enters the classroom and without uttering a word can make the class keep quiet, can make the class suddenly stop talking. And they haven't even said a word. That's a master teacher who knows um, classroom management. So that's what we're going to take up. Stop disciplining, start managing. You don't need discipline if you know how to manage. And how do we manage? Well, this is it. This is the answer. The best way to manage is to have procedures and routines. That's why the most important thing we teachers should do in the first days of school is this: clearly define classroom procedures and routines. Please take note, these are not rules. Discipline, that's for rules. But managing, that's for procedures, or the other way around. Rules are for discipline, procedures are for managing. Okay? Now, it's not enough to define the classroom procedures and routines, rehearse them over and over and over again until they become routine, until the procedures become automatic. So that's the key to managing a class. Make them follow procedures. Here's what the research says. You want responsible students, right? Well, the only way you can have responsible students is if you have procedures and routines which students can be responsible to. Take note, the students are not responsible to you. You're making them responsible to the procedures and routines. So, if the student does not follow the procedure, please don't ever say words like, John, are you challenging my authority? No, he's not challenging your authority. He is just not being responsible to the procedures and routines that you should have taught them, that you should have taught John. Okay? And here's what the research also says. When students know how the class is run, they will more willingly do whatever you want them to do. Really, if they know uh, what the procedures are, um, how the class is run, then they will more willingly do whatever you want them to do. That's what should keep us busy in the first days of school. And it's not a waste of time. Even if you spend the whole first week of the first days of the school year just teaching and rehearsing the procedures over and over and over again until they become automatic. So let's in fact differentiate that. Procedures and routines. Procedures are what you want students to do. Routines are what the students do automatically. And if the procedures have become routines, then your class will be like a well oiled machine running very smoothly without you ever having to get upset, get angry. Okay? That's the key to managing a class according to Harry Wong. Because the number one problem in the classroom is not discipline, it's the lack of procedures and routines. Even if the students we have now are so totally different, I mean, those of you like me who have been inside the classroom for 30 years, I'm on my 34th year as a teacher. When I was a younger teacher, if I say, John, sit down, John will sit down. Today, in the classroom setup, if you tell John, sit down, aba, John will look at you very angrily. And then with that kind of face, sometimes we'll even mumble, dami-dami ditong nakatayo, ako lang utusan. Uh, that's the kind of kids now we can have inside the classroom. No, those of you who have been teachers for a long time, we've experienced this. A student who can be so hard-headed, for example, that no, the number one problem in the classroom is not discipline. It's the lack or absence of procedures and routines. So here are some samples of procedures you should teach and rehearse with the students in the first days of the school year. Take note, Harry Wong emphasizes don't just teach them, rehearse them over and over until they become automatic for the students. For example, the heading of papers. I mean, after 2 months in the school year, the student should not be asking, Sir, do we need to put our name? Sir, do we need to put the class number? Sir, do we need to put the date? Should we put the subject? If that was explained on the first day of the school year, this is how you head your paper, then you will not have to repeat over and over, or you will not have to answer questions related to that. Now, here's an example Harry Wong always gives as a procedure: passing in papers. This is for face-to-face setup, but just to give you an example of having clear procedures and good ones. According to Harry Wong, one of the worst strategies of teachers is to say, okay, class, time's up, stop the writing, pass the papers forward. right? You remember? You must have said something like that in the past. Or you must have heard your teacher say that, stop writing, time's up, pass the papers forward. Now, students are not angels. They're not going to all stop writing and pass the papers forward. No, there are some students. You always have that kind of student who will not stop writing, will continue answering. And here comes a student at the back who is trying to pass his paper forward because the teacher said so. And because he's at the back, he wants to be able to pass right away the paper. But the person in front is not looking, he is still writing. So, what does the guy at the back have to do? He has to hit him with a paper. Uy, pass na raw. And the student in front will get angry and look back. Ano ba? Hindi pa ako tapos. And you have a classroom that erupts into a chaos simply because the teacher said, pass the papers forward. Now, here is the procedure that I learned from Harry Wong for inside the classroom setup, and I've always used that, and it works. And here's the procedure. Okay, class, time's up. At the count of 5, all papers to the aisles. And we rehearsed this in the beginning of the school year. We actually did it 2 times, 3 times, 4 times on the first day of the school year. Okay, stop writing. Um, Papers to the aisle. The papers, the classroom setup where there is an aisle. Those on the extreme left, at the count of 5, I will say all papers to the aisles. 5, I will start counting now. 5, 4, 3. You see, that's my strategy. I don't say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because that can go to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and even 20. But if you say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it ends with 1. I mean, you cannot go beyond 1. So, and when I say 5, the persons at the very end of the rows know that they should already be passing their paper to the person next to them. If the aisle is on the right, the person to the right. 4, and the person who got the paper now knows that he, by when he hears 4, he should be passing the papers and his paper and the paper that was passed to him to the person to his right, leading down to the aisle. 3, another set. 2, and by the time I reach 1, all the papers are along the aisles, and I just walk down the aisle collecting. Thank you very much, thank you very much, thank you very much. And it didn't take us more than 10 seconds, and I have all the papers. No chaos erupting. No. Now, when the person is passing his paper to the right, he does not have to hit him with a paper because that's within the peripheral vision of this person receiving the paper. So he takes it, and he knows he puts his paper on top, as the other person now will put his on top, etc. That's a procedure um, to pass in papers that does not have to eat up so much time. At the count of 5, all papers to the aisles. 5, 4, 3. Now, here's another one. When teacher is tardy, Harry Wong says, most schools don't have a procedure. What if the bell rings and there is no teacher in the classroom? Most schools, they don't have a procedure. So what happens? The bell rings, there's no teacher in the classroom, and the class becomes a zoo. Students become rowdy, noisy, boisterous because there's no procedure when the teacher is tardy. Well, here's the strategy I learned from Harry Wong. Okay, class, if the bell rings and there's no teacher, here's the procedure. President and vice president of the class come forward, take over the class. Secretary, class secretary, go to the faculty room and you inquire, is Mr. So and so here? Is there a substitute teacher? We don't have a teacher in the classroom. That's the procedure. There is a procedure. So even if there's no teacher, it can be orderly. There's no problem with order and discipline. You see, it's a problem of procedure, not of discipline. More procedures and routines that you should Rehearse over and over with the students until they become routine. Now, I'll give you two examples of this coming to attention. An ineffective teacher normally does not have procedure to get the students to come to attention, right? You enter the classroom and you want the students to pay attention, but the class is noisy. Everyone is talking. So, what do? You have to make your voice louder because you have to be heard over the noise of the class. And if sometimes they don't hear you because the class is really noisy, so what do? An ineffective teacher will start slamming his hand on the board. And if it still doesn't work, he starts flickering the lights to just to get the students to come to attention. That's ineffective, that's inefficient. Here is a strategy of Harry Wong to get the class to come to attention. Okay, class, here is our strategy. Here is our procedure. If I need you to pay attention because I need to announce something, okay? Salami, salami, stop and look at me. If you see the teacher go to the middle of the classroom and raises his hand calmly like that, when you see the teacher with his arm raised like that, it means stop whatever you're doing, stop whatever you're saying, even if you're in the middle of the sentence, and look at the teacher, look at me. If you see a classmate looking the other way, tap him in the back, point to the teacher, salami. Okay? That's the procedure. You see, the teacher can get the class to keep quiet because he needs to announce something um, without ever even having to say anything, without a word, without having to shout, without having to scream. And then we will rehearse it. Okay, let's rehearse it. Get a partner, and then I'll give you time to talk with each other about what I did last summer. Okay, what I watched in Netflix over the weekend. Okay, get a partner and then talk about that topic. And then when the noise level is very high, then you rehearse the salami. Calmly, you go to the middle of the classroom and raise your hand and wait until everybody is quiet. Now, John is not quiet. He's not following the procedure. Don't get angry. He is not challenging your authority. It's enough to say, John, what's the procedure, please? And then he will keep quiet. Thank you. Um, let's do it again. Continue your discussion of what you watched over the weekend, the K dramas that you were able to finish over the summer, and then let's do the salami after a few minutes. You do it again, and then you calmly raise your hand in the middle of the room at a certain point, and in a matter of 3 4 counts, they are all quiet. John is still not stopping. No need to get angry. It's just enough to say, John, what's the procedure, please? And then he will keep quiet. Thank you. Until that becomes a routine. Now, sometimes in my class, I would ask the students, get a partner, sit wherever you want in the classroom, and discuss the question. Later, we will call for people for recitation. Salami may not work because some of them are seated in the end of the room. The others are there behind the lockers. Okay, then I will use the bell method. Okay, class, this is the procedure. I will ring the bell, ting, and then I will count 3, 2, and 1. By the time I reach 1, I expect you to stop talking, even if you're in the middle of the sentence, and look at me. No need to stand up from where you are. Just look at me because I need to make an announcement. Stop. The bell method, similar to the salami. It works. It works, especially if it becomes a routine. And there comes a point when I don't even need to count. As soon as I ring the bell, just mentally count 3, 2, and 1, and you have the attention of everyone. It works. But you've got to rehearse over and over until it becomes a routine. Now, some of the procedures you don't teach at the start of the school year. For example, graduating students. You're not going to teach them the procedure in receiving the diploma during graduation rites. You receive the diploma with your left hand, you shake the hand of the principal, and then you bow in the middle of the stage. Of course, you don't teach that on day one. You teach it sometime before graduation as part of the preparation for graduation. Okay? Okay, class, we are going to attend the General Assembly flag ceremony. Here's our procedure. I will count five. At the count of five, you should be in a straight line outside. Okay? Um, According to height. Let's practice it, and then you rehearse it until it becomes a routine. It's the procedures that set up the class for achievement to take place. And it's worthwhile doing it and spending time on it, rehearsing over and over in the first days of school. The book of Harry Wong lists uh, many procedures that we can teach the students how to recite. What do they do if they come in late for class? What can they how do they go about it if they need to ask permission to go to the washroom in the middle of the class? What if they need to borrow a ball pen? They are all procedures. They have nothing to do with discipline. And if they know the procedure, what if they come in late? If they know the procedure, they will follow it, they will do it. But if they don't know the procedure, then you have a problem of a student just suddenly entering in the middle of your class and you don't know where he came from. And um, so, okay, procedure, you have to get a slip from the office that will give you the permit to enter the classroom. But the office already takes note that you were late on that day. It will appear in your card as tardiness, etc. There are procedures. Okay, now we discussed this yesterday for those of you who were with us in the advisory. Now, this is very much especially significant to um, classroom management. The 6 levels of moral development of Kohlberg. According to Kohlberg, the reasons why people do good things or do the right thing, they go through these 6 levels. The lowest reason is simply because I don't want to get into trouble. And teachers are guilty of this in disciplining when they always say, class, you better watch out. You better watch out. Nako, if I catch you, you will see. Makikita nyo. And the students ask, ma'am, anong makikita namin? Ayan. We threaten with punishment, with sanction, with... So, they will now behave just because they don't want to get into trouble. That's the lowest reason or lowest level of moral development. Here's the second reason. I want a reward. And so, they will do the good thing. They will behave because the teacher said may reward. We will watch a movie, we will have a quiz bee, we will do this, we will do that, I will get a smiley, I will get a star on my paper, I will... They want a reward. I mean, that's already better than level 1, but we can still do better than this, because in fact the problem with level 2 is sometimes in real life, no matter how good you do, the reward doesn't come. Is that reason for you to stop doing the good? No, we continue doing the good because it's the right thing. Reward or no reward. Here's third level. I want to please somebody. And you have students like that. Sip, sip. They are trying to please the teacher. They want to be in good favor with a teacher. They want to please their parents. I mean, that's already better than level 1 and 2, but we can still do better than this. Level 4, because I follow the rules. They behave because sabi ni mame, that's the rule. Sabi ni sir, that's in the student's handbook. That's in the policy. That's in the manual. Okay. I mean, that's already nice. Ano? Can you imagine if all human beings follow the rules? You will not have problems with the um, traffic caused by undisciplined drivers. Okay. But again, we can still do better than this because in real life, in fact, the heroes are those who are ready to break rules. I mean, Jose Rizal broke rules. Um, Even Jesus Christ broke rules. He performed miracles on a Sabbath. Even if the Jewish law prohibited it, he did what is right, which is charity above all, love for neighbor above all, like that. No, so we can do better than this. Level 5 of moral development is I am considerate of other people. In disciplining our students, we should often be talking about being considerate. Class, come on, please maintain a certain noise level down, okay? Because there are classes in the other rooms. Let's not disturb them. They too are trying to study. Or a teacher saying, class, please study hard. I mean, even online, we should be saying things like this to our students. Students, class, please do your best to do well in the exam that I'm going to give next week, okay? Even just for the being considerate with your parents who are paying for your tuition. Be considerate of your teachers who are doing their best, who are even though this is more difficult than ever, they are still teaching. Be considerate of their sacrifices. That's fifth level of moral development, and it's fantastic if we can get every student reach even just this level 5 of moral development. Level 5 thinkers, always considerate of other people. And then finally, number 6, I have a personal code of behavior and I live by it. I have personal code of behavior and I follow it. That's why the example I gave yesterday is you are a good parent if you're able to tell your child, anak, behave ha, you're carrying the name of our family. Yan. You're carrying the name of our family. If a parent is able to say that, ibig sabihin, pinaalam na ng magulang sa mga anak what it means to be part of our family, that we are kind, we are courteous, we are hardworking, we are respectful. We have a personal code of behavior and we follow it. Same thing with teachers. If teachers are able to say, class, come on, I expect best behavior from you. You're carrying the name of our class. Yan. Ibig sabihin, the teacher has already managed to give them a certain personal code of behavior for our class. This is what we will have to be known by, to be known for our kindness, respect, courtesy, hard work, etc. That's why that's one of the things we should be doing in the first days of school, setting the stage for this kind of behavior. Level 6 thinkers, students, that we can even say, I expect best behavior from you when we go to the flag ceremony. Not because I will punish, not because I'm offering a reward, but simply because we carry the name of our class. And our class stands for hard work, respect, kindness, responsibility, etc. Okay, well, it's exactly 4 o'clock right now. I've been talking for an hour. Before we go to disciplining now, strategies of discipline, let us have a bit of a break to give people a chance to go to the washroom, get water, or simply have a bit of rest just with these 2 videos I'd like to share with you as our break.
Dear teachers, last spring you made the shift from face-to-face teaching to pandemic pedagogy. In a matter of days, you found innovative solutions to huge challenges. You designed virtual lessons with limited time and limited resources. And there was no roadmap or blueprint. Now, it wasn't perfect. There were some mistakes along the way. But you were there for your students every single day. You've proven that social distance doesn't have to mean relational distance. Despite the roadblocks, you've built a classroom community on empathy and kindness, where students engage in meaningful collaboration. You've done check-ins and partnered with families. You've helped find resources for students who are struggling. You've experimented with new approaches and you've taken creative risks. You've continued to learn. You're reading books, watching videos, listening to podcasts, and reading articles. And you're curating content and engaging in professional discussions. You're crafting meaningful lessons that empower students with voice and choice. Like that awesome scavenger hunt, or the maker project, or that blogging project, or the choice menu, or the game-based learning activity you did. Now 2020 has been hard. We've seen wildfires and natural disasters and an economic downturn. Oh, and apparently murder hornets? Seriously, murder hornets. Meanwhile, teaching is especially challenging right now. It can feel draining when you have a barrage of emails to answer, or when you do a video conference and face a wall of black screens. Some of the social media comments about teachers have been downright toxic. But know this, you are impacting lives. Right now, there's a student who feels known and heard because of you. There's a student who is passionate about learning because of you. There are students who will remember you forever as someone who was there for them in these dark times. You are changing the world even when you can't see it. So thank you.
It's clear that 2020 has ended up being one of the most challenging, one of the most frustrating, one of the most heartbreaking years that our country and this globe has ever experienced. Who would have known? Who would have ever thought that there would be a global pandemic that we'd be fighting with? But watch this, in the midst of it all, we have a fighting chance because of heroes. Now, I'm not just talking about the doctors or the nurses or the first responders. I'm talking about heroes like you. You see, during this holiday season, I realized something, that you all are the gift that keeps on giving. Now, when I say the gift that keeps on giving, I mean, it's one thing for you to answer the call that was on your life. It's one thing for many of you to be overworked and underpaid. It's one thing for you to go above and beyond. But in the midst of this pandemic, there are a group of educators like you all over the globe that's going to that next level. Like, that's why I say you're the gift that keeps on giving. So let me tell you what I mean. There are literally teachers like Zane Powell that's walking 5 miles a day, hand delivering food to his students and checking on their well-being. That's why I say that you are the gift that keeps on giving. And then you got teachers like John T. Lee out in DC, who's a chemistry teacher. And since he's virtually teaching from home, he's literally turning his kitchen into a chemistry lab. You are the gift that keeps on giving. And then you got Chris Waba in South Dakota that's literally going to his students' homes and he's tutoring them after school through the screen door. This is next level. You are the gift that keeps on giving. And then in Connecticut, there's Luciana Lita, who one of her students' siblings was a newborn, came 5 weeks early. And when she found out that the whole family contracted COVID-19, she literally built a nursery within her home and she would take care of this newborn baby. You are the gift that keeps on giving. And for those of you that's watching this right now, you're thinking like, man, I'm not taking in newborn children. Man, I'm not tutoring students through a screen door. Man, I'm not hand delivering food 5 miles a day. Man, I'm not turning my kitchen into a chemistry lab. Please, please believe you are still the gift that keeps on giving because you did not retreat. Because you kept showing up, because you kept serving. Why are you worried about your own health physically, and you're worried about your own health mentally, and you're trying to figure out how do I engage with kids virtually, and you're showing up in the presence of students every single day? What if I told you that you are the gift that keeps on giving? And when we talk about the holiday seasons, everybody's talking about the physical presence, but I'm not talking about the gift. You are the gift. It's your physical presence that shows up every single day. It's what's making this season so special. You all are the gift that keeps on giving.
Okay, I guess that's a good enough break for us. We can proceed. We can continue on because there are still many more strategies I need to share with you from Harry Wong. So let's go over this. Let me just first, um, okay, spotlight. Okay. Okay. So, once and for all, you can solve that discipline problem. This was in 1992. I had a visitor from the United States, and his pasalubong was a cassette tape of Harry Wong's Once and for All, You Can Solve That Discipline Problem. It was from James Stenson, one of the top parenting experts in the world, who came over to Iloilo to visit Westbridge, and he gave me that copy. And it was from there that I learned what it means to be a good classroom manager. And it's fantastic. Here's what he says in that cassette tape. Believe it or not, the kids want discipline even more than you do. I mean, no kid would want to be in a classroom where he is in danger of being hurt, harmed by classmates, harassed. That's why they don't want to be in a classroom where there is bullying, where students are undisciplined, unruly, mischievous even. And if the class advisor, I mean, if the teacher is a good classroom manager, then they feel safe. They feel safer. They want discipline. Here are 5 myths of discipline according to Harry Wong. Myths, kasinungalingan, hindi totoo. Don't believe them. Here's the first myth, and I've heard it from a senior teacher advising a younger teacher. Sabi niya sa kanya, do not smile until Christmas. Yan. That's a myth. That's not true. In fact, yesterday, if you were with us in the advisory talk, I mentioned that on the day one, on the first day of the school year, as a class advisor, I would welcome my students. I would stand by the door. No one could enter except through me. And I would give them my biggest, widest, fakest smile to welcome them to the new school year. That's a myth. Okay? Don't believe those people who say, don't smile kasi itong mga students na to, they will test how far they can go with you. Once they see you smile, they will see it as a weakness that they can fool around with you. Of course not. That's not true. Especially if you have very clear procedures and routines that you will make the students follow. Here's myth number 2. Hindi totoo. Big and tough. Mr. Antoy, wala akong problema with discipline. If only I am big and tough, then the students will not even dare try. That's not true. I have had teachers who were big, overweight. I mean, but they were very fatherly, very motherly, very sweet, very nice, very much like a parent. So it's not true that you have to be big and scary. No. Here's myth number 3. Alam mo, Mr. Antoy, wala sana kaming problema with discipline. If only we have the latest gadgets. If only we have the whiteboard, not the blackboard or Manila paper. Okay, if you can afford all those things, if your school can afford to have a HD television, 60-inch inside every classroom, very good. Continue. Fantastic. That's nice. But that is not what will solve the discipline problem. Okay? I was once how do you call that? A consultant in an international school. Wow, every classroom, high definition television. No need to bring your video projector. You attach it by HDMI to the HD TV. But they have problems with bullying. They have problems with discipline. So you see, it's not the latest gadgets. If you can afford it, nice. But that is not what will solve discipline problem. Here's myth number 4. Middle class. Alam mo, Mr. Antoy, kung students lang sana namin are from middle class. Kasi the problems are from the very, very rich students, spoiled kids, or those very, very poor na parang may problema with self-esteem, motivation. No, it's not true. I have been teaching in the University of Asia and the Pacific. I had students there who are scholars and they take lunch in the karinderya of NEDA, yung sa kasama ng mga taxi drivers at saka jeepney drivers, doon nagla-lunch. Kasi yun lang ang kaya ng budget nila. But I also have students, as soon as i-announce ng Malacanang ang long weekends. Oy, they book their Boracay, Singapore, Hong Kong trip because they take advantage of those long weekends. But it didn't matter. I mean, rich or poor, it's not what will determine discipline inside the classroom. It's the teacher, it's the classroom manager who will still, in the end, determine if it is going to be a well managed class, disciplined class, a class that will achieve. Now, here's the fifth, and I address myself especially to young teachers or to especially to first year teachers. Yung bang first time pa lang magtuturo, because they are the ones normally who fall into this myth trap, the fifth myth. And this is, alam mo, Mr. Antoy, wala akong problema with discipline. Kasi I will be friends of my students. Barkada ang trato ko sa kanila. We will be in equal level. We will even eat in McDonald's together. We will even go out to drink. High school students, we will have beer, a bottle of beer every now and then. No. In fact, we need to remind these teachers, you are not meant to be friends with your students. You are meant to be role models of your students. Yung titingalain nila at sasabihin nila, gusto ko ito, paglaki ko, I want to be like ma'am, I want to be like sir. That's your role, not a friend. In fact, they don't need more friends. You look at their Facebook, ang dami na nilang friends. What they need is a role model, an authority figure that they will respect and that they will look up to. Be friendly, be very, very friendly, but you are not merely meant to be just friends with them. In fact, I've seen this happen too many times in the past. Teachers who try so hard to be friends with their students para silang tumatakbo sa popularity contest. Alam mo yung parang trying too hard to be liked to the point that they start acting funny, trying to be cool, trying to be chill, trying to speak the same language, and trying to pretend like they're listening to the same type of music. And okay, pero I've seen this end tragically in some cases. At a certain point, they have to discipline the class. They have to get upset. They have to tell the class to keep quiet. And then the students get confused. Kala ko ba friends natin yan? Bakit siya nagagalit? Why is he getting angry at the class? I thought he's our friend. And then the students get confused. Because you are not meant to be friends. You're meant to be a role model, an authority figure, someone they have to respect and look up to. Those are the 5 myths of discipline. Let me now describe to you 4 different types of classrooms. Here's the first type: low control, low support. Low control now, the students are sleeping, but the teacher is afraid to wake them up because if he thinks if I wake them up, baka magalit sa akin, they might just get angry. Never mind, tulog kayo dyan. Kung gusto nyo, bahala kayo. Low control. There are these students, kanina pa nagdadaldalan. But if I stop them, they might look at me angrily. They might even answer back. Never mind, sige, bahala kayo, magdaldalan kayo dyan. Low control. And low support. The students don't like the teacher. Ito yung mga students who say precisely, hindi ko nga madinig si mami, ang ingay ng classmates ko eh. But he, she cannot discipline my classmates. They don't like this teacher. In fact, they think, sana doon na lang tayo sa kabilang class. Mas stricto raw yung teacher. But at least matututo tayo. And they get bored. It produces a bored classroom. The students start saying, ba't kasi kailangan pang pag-aralan tong subject na to eh? Hindi naman to kailangan sa aking architecture. Anong kinalaman ng Filipino sa architecture? Anong kinalaman ng social studies sa physics that I will take up in college? They get bored and they start thinking, that's what you produce. Here's another kind of classroom: low control, high support. Low control now, you want to text, go ahead. Bawal ang texting, bawal at ng gadget, but you stay there at the back. Make sure lang there's no teacher passing by. There's no principal is not passing by. You want to eat? Go ahead. Eat there your sandwich at the back. Just make sure the principal will not see you. Uh, Low control. Um, you want to transfer seats? Go ahead. Sige. And the students, high support. Uy, okay tong teacher ah. Chill, cool. We can do whatever we want. Yan. Because this is a kind of teacher who has low control because that's his way of trying to be popular, trying to be liked. But not all students are the same. Some of them can see through the teacher and are able to say, nagpapa-popular lang naman tong teacher na to. And eventually, you start producing a class that is frustrated because they know the teacher is may favoritism pa. Low control, high support, but not all of them. In both cases, of course, kawawang bata, the expression in Tagalog, kawawang bata. Here's another classroom, third kind of classroom. High control, low support. High control now, sit up straight, eyes on the board, hands on your desk, face here, stop talking, stop breathing, inhale, exhale, high control, pati paghinga kailangan i-control. I mean, these are the kind of teachers that we call terror teachers. Scary. They resort to threatening, to punishing, to high control. High control kasi the students have to follow. In fact, when you visit a classroom of a terror teacher, of a high control teacher in the face-to-face setup, uy, very quiet, parang sementeryo, patay lahat. Nobody would dare talk. Nobody would even dare recite because they're scared of the teacher. High control, low support. They don't like that kind of teacher. Very unfortunate. I've heard of students who develop trauma because of terror teachers. There's one grade 5 kid who had to be brought by the parents to a psychiatrist. Kasi paggising niya pa lang sa umaga, when he wakes up in the morning, maaalala niya may subject ako with that teacher. He would start developing fever and trembling and perspiring like anything. It became psychosomatic, terrorized. Low support. The students don't like that kind of teacher. In fact, they don't even respect that kind of teacher. They are revengeful. They are finding a way of getting back at the teacher in whatever way they can. Here's a fourth kind of teacher, classroom rather, high control, high support, class, study hard, work on being able to get 100% in the test, okay? And they will want to get 100% in the test. Class, let's have let's join the contest, the declamation contest. They will want to join and they will want to win. Class, let's make it really the best um, intrams that we've ever had. They will want to win. They will want to make it the best intrams they've ever. High control. You can get the students to do what you want them to do. And that's what I showed you yesterday in the advisory presentation. You want them all to work on being able to make it to the honors list. They will. High control. You want them to be number one in the um, excellence award, the how do you call it, the classroom excellence award. They will, because high control and high support, and they will support you. They will do what you want them to do because they know this teacher knows what he's doing. This teacher is after what is best for us, what is good for us. You're going to produce a successful classroom. Okay, so let's now have a discipline plan. Remember, kanina, we were talking about procedures and routines. That has nothing to do with discipline. It's just what we want the students to do. Those are not rules. They are simply what you want students to do and how you want them to do. And you make them do it over and over until they become routine. Now let's go to discipline plan. I visit schools around the Philippines and I ask the schools many times, do you have a discipline plan? Oh yeah, we have classroom rules. And then if they don't follow, we have punishments like detention, like that. Okay, my question is, What if they follow the rules? Wala. Edi, the teacher does not have to get angry. Wala. Edi, the class will go on very smoothly. Harry Wong says, no, there should be positive consequences. Because the principle is, you stand a better chance of getting the students to do what you want them to do when they are working to get a reward than to avoid a punishment. Okay, let me repeat that. You stand a better chance of getting the students to do what you want them to do if they are working, especially as a class, working as a class to get the rewards than to avoid a punishment. Now, here's a rule about rules. Don't have so many rules, they cannot even memorize them. I mean, how do you expect them to follow your rules if they don't even memorize them? Therefore, just have enough that they can memorize. 3 to 5. That's it. And make them memorize it. That's why yesterday I showed you in the class advisory seminar, I showed you the classrooms of Southridge Grade School. Every classroom would have posted on the in front of the class the 5 rules. Whatever classroom you enter, the rules are the same. That's the ideal situation. And only 5. And moreover, the teachers make them recite the 5 classroom rules every morning before the start of the day. After the prayer, the class cheer, then they recite the 5 rules. Okay, so in my years that I learned this from Harry Wong, I've only followed 3 rules. Whether it is grade 4 classes I had in Southridge, or fourth year high school, or fourth year college, or MA students, only 3. No unnecessary noise, no unnecessary movement, come prepared for class. That's it. No unnecessary noise, no unnecessary movement, come prepared for class. And I explained those 3 rules at the start of the year. Now, here are some samples of rewards. Some of them applicable to preschool, others all the way to college, even PhD classes. Okay? These are some samples of positive consequences or rewards. I'll give you an example. I'm proud of you statement. I'm proud of you statement. That can be done even in a PhD class. As I did it in my classes in UANP, I was handling Latin for the MA humanities students. And then I would make them do reports, presentations. And I remember once after the presentations, I said to the class, your reports were fantastic. How I wish we can present those in the other schools. I'm so proud of you. That's a reward, a consequence that they came prepared for class. They came prepared for the presentations. Or a pat on the shoulder. Good job, keep it up. The following students were the top 10. Good job, keep it up. When we post those, when we let the whole class know that these were the top performers in the last quiz, that's coming to class prepared. That's a good pat on the shoulder. And it can be done to kids all the way to even college. Here are more samples of positive consequences, some applicable to preschool, others all the way to college. Okay? Let me give you an example. Visit to principal for special acknowledgement. Why is it that in some schools, the teacher's idea of being sent to the principal's office is a punishment, right? I've seen teachers like that who get so upset, get so angry at a student, and they cannot punish anymore, and they just tell the kid, go to the principal's office now. And the boy goes to the principal's office. And the principal asks the boy, oh, why are you here? And the boy says, I don't know. My teacher asked me to come because it's not even in the procedure. It's not even in the policy. The idea, the concept that, hala, if you're sent to the principal's office, hala ka, lagot, pagagalitan ka. No, I would bring students to the principal's office to be commended. Miss Principal, these students were doing poorly last quarter and now they're running for honors. They really have been working so hard. And the principal should acknowledge, good job, keep it up. That's what it means to be a student of our school. So, um, positive consequences. There should be more positive consequences than negative consequences because you stand a better chance of getting the students to do what you want them to do when they are working to get a reward than to avoid a punishment. Here are samples of negative consequences or punishments, sanctions. Some of them, again, applicable to preschool, some others all the way applicable to college or even high school or even college. Detention, for example, is a standard thing, right? I'll give you an example of how I use detention as a consequence later on. More samples of negative consequences, some applicable to preschool, others all the way to high school. Some of you may be trying to copy, especially for those of you who are first time to attend our seminar this week. The slide presentation is already ready for downloading. The whole presentation is already ready for downloading in the Facebook page. It's scheduled to be published in 1 minute. At 4:30, that PowerPoint presentation is ready for downloading in the Facebook page, The Professional Teachers. um, facebook.com/groups/the professional teacher. Yan. You look for it, join it, and the presentation is already ready for downloading in a few moments. No? Okay, so here are more consequences that are negative, some of them applicable to preschool, others all the way to high school. Some of them, in fact, if not all of them, are already in your student's handbook, manual, removal from office, in school suspension, recommendation for suspension, um, dropping from the rolls. They are all already most likely in your student's handbook or policies. No? Okay, so again, I repeat, there should be more rewards than penalties because you stand a better chance of getting the students to do what you want them to do when they are working to get a reward. Okay, now let's go to some concrete strategies. Some very concrete ones that will, remember I told you, you can actually get John to do without ever having to say, John, stop talking, sit up straight, eyes here on the board, look up straight, stop, um, etc. Here is the first one. Sabi ni Harry Wong, the classroom management seminars should be done in ballet studios where you have mirrors all over, because the most powerful tool, strategy that especially master teachers are able to perfect is the strategy called the stare. Yan. The stare. I mean, you ever notice master teachers, they enter the classroom and then just with a certain kind of look on their face, the whole class keeps quiet. Uy, keep quiet. Mom is already upset. Uh, He's not saying anything. She's not saying anything. But that kind of stare. The thing is, the our stare can have different readings, interpretations. There's a kind of stare that says, hayop kayong mga bata, papatayin ko kayo, galit na ako sa inyo. I'm about to quit, I'm about to give up. I mean, that kind of stare. I'm already fed up with you and I want to get you all out of my system. That kind of stare, we don't realize it, but we may have that kind of stare. But there's also a kind of stare that actually communicates a certain message that says, come on, I expect best behavior from you. Oh, come on now, show me. discipline. Show me what it means to be a good student. Come on, that kind of stare. We don't know our face. That's why Harry Wong says, go to the mirror, look at your face, and then practice the perfect stare. Yung the perfect stare that if you want the people in the Zoom room, in the Google Classroom to now pay attention, to now please be focused, that you put on that stare and they know it. They will say, uy, mom is already getting upset. And so we have to practice it. We have to learn that perfect stare and then use it to the max that we can. That's Harry Wong's style. That's Harry Wong's system. You see, without even saying a word, we can be getting the message across of, I expect best behavior. Come on, be disciplined, etc. Here's another one, and it's well, it's a classroom system, and I discovered that Harry Wong used it because I learned it from him. Hal Urban used it. Rafe Esquith used it. We learned about him yesterday. And Ron Clark, one of the best teachers alive today, also uses it. By the way, if you're looking for an inspiring movie to show your teachers as you are preparing for a new school year, show them the Ron Clark story. It's available in YouTube, starring Matthew Perry. The Ron, R-O-N, Clark, C-L-A-R-K story. It's a fantastic movie that talks about um, his first year as a teacher. And he is such a spectacular teacher. He even managed to put up his own school, the Ron Clark Academy, RCA, based in Atlanta, the US, where all the students end up to be high achievers. Even I think one third of his students who are way below, especially in economic scales, no, but they all end up to be highly successful because all those teachers I mentioned, Hal Urban, Ron Clark, Harry Wong, um, Rafe Esquith, they use the check system. Here's the principle of Harry Wong: do not eat up academic time in order to discipline. Okay? Don't be like some teachers we know. Pag galit na, they spend the rest of the period sermonizing, nagle-lecture on discipline. No. Harry Wong said, you should not lose academic time in order to discipline. So, how does the check system work? Remember, I have 3 rules in my class, and I expect my students to follow it. Now, this is the classroom application. Um, how I wish it can be also done online. It can be done, especially if you're concerned in discipline in the online class, is when some students are not doing what you want them to do. Like you want them to turn on their videos, but they turn it off. Or you want them to be stay put and not to be going out of the screen, but they do. So that's unnecessary movement, right? Or they unmute themselves and then they make noise, unnecessary noise. So here's how it works, and I'll explain it in the classroom setup, and then you can think of how it can possibly be used for online application. Let's say I'm lecturing on subject verb agreement, okay? And remember the Harry Wong principle, I shouldn't um, eat up academic time in order to discipline. So I shouldn't stop teaching even while disciplining. And here's how the check system works. Let's say I'm lecturing on the subject verb agreement class. If the subject is singular, the verb should also be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb should also be plural. And then I notice John and Joey talking in the classroom. I don't stop because that's against the principle of Harry Wong. I noticed John and Joey talking. They have chosen to break rule number 1, no unnecessary noise. So I calmly pick up the chalk or the whiteboard marker while still lecturing if the subject is singular, and then I go to the board and then I write their name on the board without stopping my lecture. John and Joey will see that and they will stop talking because they realize they have chosen to break rule number one. And they know that if their name is written on the board, it's a warning. No punishment, no sanction, just a warning that you have chosen to break one of my rules. I continue lecturing. However, class, there are some nouns that are always singular, like anyone, anybody, someone, somebody, something. And then I noticed John and Joey talking again. They decided again to break my rule. I don't get angry. I don't stop lecturing. I just calmly pick up the chalk or the whiteboard marker and then I go to the board and put a check mark beside their names already written on the board. They know that your name written on the board with one check mark means you have to stay for 5 minutes detention in the recess or in the lunch or after dismissal, whichever is coming up next. 5 minutes detention. A second check mark would mean 15 minutes of detention in recess, in lunch, or after detention. I mean, after dismissal, you have to stay for detention. A third check mark would mean you have to come back on Saturday to serve the detention. A fourth check mark means I will have to call up your parents. So all those they already know, and I tell you, as soon as they see their names there without a check mark, they will do their best not to get a single check mark. It works. It works. And what I like about it is it's very fair. You're not looking for people to punish right away. You give a warning. The first time you write their name on the board, there's no punishment. It's just a warning. You have chosen to break one of my rules. And this is a warning. And the other thing I like about this is when you start your class next day or the next time around that you have a class with that with them, everybody deserves a fresh new beginning. The board is clear, the board is clean, regardless of how many were given warnings earlier. You remove all those, everybody has a fresh new start. That's why it works. It's fair and it works because then you never would have to stop to say, John, stop talking. John and Joey, kanina pa kayo. How many times do you have to tell you? No, none of those things. It's enough to just calmly pick up the chalk or the marker and then write the name on the board as a warning. That's the check system. No wonder these best teachers in the world use the check system. You see, to get John and Joey do what you want them to do without you even having to say anything. Because it's when teachers start saying things to discipline that we regret what we say when we start saying things like, John, Joey, how many times do you have to tell you? What's wrong with you? Are you sick in the mind? Do you not understand what I'm saying? That's when they start being resentful. Not to mention, they will tell the story to their parents and the parents will get upset. What? Your teacher called you that? I'll go to the school tomorrow to complain. Then we regret having even said any of those. But with a check system, you can get the students do what you want them to do without even having to say a word. Here's another system, another version of sorts of the stopwatch. Sorry, of the check system. That stopwatch system, it's a reward system. I've used it, especially in lower grades, grade 4, 5, 6. It worked. It worked perfectly well. And here's how it goes. At the start of every month, I would tell the class in Southridge, for example, our classes were 50-minute periods. Okay, our periods were 50 minutes. So I would usually have one of those clocks, watches that have countdown. Now all cell phones would have that counter timer where you can set 50 minutes and then when you click it, it starts counting down 49 minutes and 55 seconds like that. And I would usually would have this one that you click. And here's how it works. On the first day of the month, I would tell the class, okay, class, you have 50 minutes of reward, okay, that you will get at the end of the month. But take note, every time a classmate of yours chooses to break any of my rules, I will click it and you start losing seconds from the 50-minute reward. And I will not stop it until I see that he is sorry or that he is not going to do it anymore. Okay? And it will be like that every time. Instead of doing the check mark, I would just calmly pick up the clock and click it. For example, I'm giving a lecture on subject verb agreement. And I notice John and Joey talking. I don't get angry. I just look at John and Joey while calmly picking up the clock and still lecturing. And then I click it and it starts counting down. The class is losing seconds from the 50-minute reward. I will not stop it until I see John and Joey showing me signs that, sorry, sir, we will not talk anymore. And then I stop it. They have just made the class lose 5, 6, 7 seconds. But I didn't stop my lecturing. I'm still talking about the subject verb agreement. Now, I continue lecturing and then I see Joanna standing up without permission, breaking rule number 2, no unnecessary movement. I don't get angry and I don't stop my lecture. I just look at Joanna and calmly pick up the clock and click it. Of course, you know what happens when I do that. The whole class looks at Joanna and tells, Joanna, sit down, the clock, the clock. And Joanna will immediately go back to her seat and I stop it. She just made the class lose 5 seconds, 4 seconds of the reward. And it's like that, class after class after class, because by the end of the month, whatever is left there, I'm going to now offer the class a menu of rewards. Let's say 45 minutes. Usually it's like that, 45, 44 minutes left because I had to click it a number of times in the past month for a number of reasons. Okay, class, you have 45 minutes left in the rewards clock. Okay, here are now the choices for your reward. 45 minutes of video. We're going to watch a movie related to the lesson we've been discussing. 45 minutes. Or another reward, 45 minutes of quiz B. We're going to have a quiz B. The class will be grouped into two, and the questions will come from the lessons I discussed this month. 45 minutes of Gymkhana treasure hunt. You're going to do some challenges, and the end goal is to formulate a statement related to the lesson that we're taking up. 45 minutes of open notes in the long test that I'm going to give at the end of this month. Of course, I'll make sure the questions cannot be found directly on the notes. They will have to do analysis and synthesis and evaluation and comprehension. Or I will not even hesitate to add in the reward 45 minutes of funny videos, nothing to do with the lessons. But because I never had to stop my lecturing, I never had to stop teaching, we covered everything we needed to cover. We're even ahead of our schedule. And besides, I never had to get angry throughout the month. It works. The stopwatch system works. And here's even the more perfect use of the stopwatch system in a classroom setup. Ever experienced going inside the classroom and the room is very disorderly, very dirty? They just finished PE in an all-boys school. You even wonder, what is the socks doing there? What is that brief doing there on the floor? What is happening here? An inefficient teacher entering the classroom like that will get angry, will get upset, will start screaming, bang his hand on the wall, and it will take eternity to get the class to be organized. Not me with my stopwatch. I have a system. I will not start the class until I see the class orderly, clean, the rows arranged, and you are standing by your desk. So, what do? I stand by the door. I look at the class, it's disorderly, and I calmly raise the clock and click it. And you know what happens next when you click the clock? Uy, the clock, bilis, ayusin nyo na yung kwarto. The rows, arrange, pick up the trash. And everybody starts running around, moving to fix up and to align and to be ready because they don't want more seconds to be lost in the rewards clock, especially if the reward is something they really want to have. That's why the key is to make sure you offer them a reward that they really will want to work hard as a class. And normally, in a situation like that, I will not take more than 10 seconds. In like miracle, in a matter of 10 seconds, and the whole class is orderly, organized, and they are arranged, and suddenly no more trash on the floor. It works. These systems work because they make the students do what you want them to do without you ever having to resort to shouting, screaming, yelling, and all of them are geared towards success of the students. They will see it. This teacher knows what he's doing. This teacher is an expert, and they will support high control, high support. That's the kind of classroom you're going to produce a successful one. Now, reward system, I have to just give a bit of a warning, is the second level of moral development, right? But if these are all put side by side with developing fifth level of moral thinking, considerate of others. Sixth level of moral thinking, I have a personal code of behavior and I live by it. Then the reward system is good, is very good. It's not just fostering greed, but it's geared towards achieving. I have a personal code of behavior and I live by it. Well, we're down to the last. Um, I will just give you a few strategies from Hal Urban. Um, Here's the first strategy, and he said he learned it on the he learned this as the most important thing he did as a teacher. He learned it on the last day of his first year as a teacher. Okay, last day as a first year teacher. Here came the students submitting their final exam, and here came a girl passing a paper to Hal Urban. And Hal realized, I don't even remember the voice of this girl. I don't even remember her complete name. I don't even remember talking to her. And at that moment, Hal Urban felt so bad, because he realized I was with this student for 200 class days and I did not treat her like a human being, like a human being should. I did not treat her as a real person. She was just like a class number. So at that moment, he made it a promise. From now on, I will do this. I will welcome my students inside my classroom every day with a handshake. I would welcome them, making them all feel important by each one shaking the hands as I welcome them to my classroom, because he's following the principle of George Isaac Brown. Never let the demands of your job cause you to forget that each one of your students is a feeling, thinking human being. And for education to be effective, it must be personal. We've mentioned this earlier. And the principle of John Dewey, the deepest urge in human nature is the desire to be important. So that's what he did for the next 20 years of his the life as a teacher. Every single day, he would welcome his student inside his classroom with a handshake. Of course, in the beginning, some of them didn't know how to do handshake. He he said he would feel like he's shaking dead fish, no life. It's limp. But eventually, they learned what it means to shake hands, look in the eyes, and with a smile. Does it work? Yes, it works, because 20 years later, 30 years later, he would meet his students in the past, and that's what they will remember him for. That's what they will tell him, what distinguished his class from everyone else's, from all the other classes. The teacher who treated them as human beings, who gave that smile with a firm handshake and the eye contact. Now, some of you are thinking, Hindi ko kayang gawin yan eh, lalo na may COVID na ngayon. Okay, now, eventually, some of his students chose the fist bump. Okay, let's do the fist bump. Some of them preferred a high five. Okay, let's do a high five. Some of them even preferred a hug as they entered the classroom of Rafe and of Hal Urban. And these were high school students. Now, some of you are thinking, ay, ang daming students sa class ko, ubus ang oras ko. Okay, well, the principle here of Hal Urban is to make them feel important, right? Now, if your only way of being able to make them feel important is not a handshake, it's a mano po, then do the mano po. But if it's not even the mano po, you cannot even do that, then maybe the eye contact, that you make it a point to make an eye contact with every single one of the students in the first 5 minutes of your period of your class. And even perhaps even every now and then, giving that head greeting, I mean, that acknowledgement. Okay, then that's what we can do. Here's what one teacher did. Okay, so that's what one teacher did. She would assign a greeter. Now, in an online setup, this can be done as as students are appearing on screen, and then you see their audio connecting. Once they are connected, hello, John, good morning. Okay, now Joanna is here. Hello, good morning, Joanna. Good morning, Edwin. In other words, you're acknowledging the presence of each one as they appear on your screen. Okay, then that's the only way we can make them feel important, make them feel welcome, make them feel they are being treated as human beings, not as mere class numbers. And then the second most important thing he did as a teacher, teach manners and the golden rule. If you can even tell the class, and even in an online class, okay, class, there is only one rule we're going to have in my class, okay? And that is a golden rule. Do unto others what you would want others do unto you, or do not do unto others what you would not want others do unto you. Hal Urban made it a point, whatever subject is teaching, to teach manners and the golden rule. Because if manners were an animal, it would be an endangered species. Henry Rogers. Okay, well, we've run out of time, but the book of Hal Urban, 20 Things Good Teachers Do, Lessons from the Classroom. While the title says 20 things, it contains dozens and dozens and dozens of strategies, and most of them are perfect for fantastic um, classroom management. Okay, I mean, that can make us get John to do what we want him to do without ever having to resort to shouting, screaming, and yelling. Okay, well, we have come to the end, and as I always announce, especially since we have new teachers, first-time teachers attending us the seminar today, please know that you can claim your certificate by sending an email to this, I want my certificate at gmail.com. Don't forget to write the name that you want to appear in the certificate and the title, because now I'm receiving emails from participants of Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday. So if you just send an email without the title of the seminar you're asking for a certificate for, I wouldn't know which one you are asking for. Okay, please indicate the title and then the complete name that you want to appear. Well, the email is in all caps or small letters. It's the same. It will reach me. I want my certificate at gmail.com. All small letters or all caps, both of them are okay. Okay. And then, as I also announced already, many handouts, including this PowerPoint presentation, which is now ready for downloading from this group page in Facebook. Look for it and then join. Wait to be accepted. And once you're in, you can scroll down and download as many as you want. There's a link there to mannrentoy downloadables. If you join that other group, there are even more books. I mean, I'm really talking of books, very good books for teacher training that you can download, and some videos and some PowerPoints. And then also the link to the recording of our session today. Okay. That brings an end to this week-long seminar. We have a series of 10 seminars happening in July 12 to 22, especially on online strategies. I admit many of the strategies I shared with you today are for classroom setting. Well, July 12 and 13, 2 days of strategies for character formation for online setup and strategies being used by some of the best teachers now for online teaching. Okay. Now we made reference to the book of Harry Wong, and I've always been telling you, please don't pay $25 plus shipping to Amazon. We are making that book because Harry Wong is a very good friend. I paid him $20,000 already to come to Manila. So um, the digital version of the book, we can pass it on to you for only 50 pesos. Send us an email to catalystpds@gmail.com and we will tell you how to be able to get that. And the book of Hal Urban, whom I brought to Manila 3 times already, um, we're also making that available. Um, it's supposed to be $15 plus shipping from the US, but no, we want to just offer it for only 300 pesos plus Lala Move delivery, which we will have to pass on to you the cost of if it is within Metro Manila. If it is province, then we will have to send it by post office or by LBC. Okay, well, it's 5 o'clock and we have come to the end of our session. I invite all of you to turn on your video. Let me see. Let me just turn on unmute. Okay. I invite you to turn on your video so that we can do a little bit of pictorials, all 5 pages of us. So why don't you practice the biggest, widest, fakest smile you're going to give your students as you welcome them on day one when we begin a new school year. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of page one in 3, 2, and smile. Okay, let's go to page two with that biggest, widest, fakest smile in 3, 2, and 1. Page 3 of, yeah, there are only 5 pages of us here. 3, 2, and 1. Page 4 now. Smile in 3, 2, and 1. And finally, page 5 with last page. 3, 2, and smile 1. Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. So then, to all of you who joined us for the whole week, thank you. We really appreciate, and it shows us that you are really serious about character formation. The question here, sir, will the PowerPoint include even the slides that were not discussed? Yes, because I uploaded the whole thing, and there's a bonus part there towards the end, the 10 principles of Dr. Thomas Licona of raising good children, upright children. 10 principles. They are
Thank,
fantastic materials. Okay?
thank you, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I hope to see you again in some of our future seminars. Um, you should be able to receive your certificate. If you email us by today, you should be able to receive it before you wake up tomorrow morning. It's already there in your inbox. Okay, especially for those of you who attended the past days and have not received it because you have not sent the email, please do so. Great. Well, thank you. I hope you have been able to get many ideas to help you prepare for a fantastic school year ahead of you. I wish you all good luck, and hopefully our seminars in the future will be face to face, not like this, which is abnormal. I mean, this is not normal. I look forward to being able to see all of you in a real lecture hall. Okay, thank you very much. If you have any question, feel free to email us in catalystpds@gmail.com, catalystpds@gmail.com. Okay, great. Maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. I will be ending this meeting in 5, 4, stay safe everyone, be healthy, 3,
Thank you, sir.
you're welcome, 2,
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your break before we start another
Thank you.
year of
Thank you,
battle.
sir. Happy weekend.
Okay, bye everyone.
Thank,
Bye.
thank you so much.
You're welcome.